there is a genocide ongoing in Gaza, Palestine, which is also extending to the other parts of Palestine, including so-called Israel and the West Bank, the occupied West Bank. We'll get into specifically how it is a genocide later, because it qualifies easily, even by the most narrow definition possible. But basically, 7,000 people have been killed in just 2 weeks, or 2.5 weeks now. About 40% of that number has been children. About 3,000 children have been killed by Israeli carpet bombing of Gaza, which is in a highly dense, almost entirely urban area, which the Palestinian people who live there have been forced into by Israel itself, which stole their land and ethnically cleansed them. And now it's bombing them to smithereens. They've killed thousands upon thousands of children. 70% of their victims are children, women, or the elderly. So obviously, certainly not combatants. They are very obviously intentionally killing civilians. There's no possible way to claim otherwise. They are intentionally killing civilians. They're specifically targeting civilians for massacre. They're bombing residential buildings. They're bombing civilian infrastructure. And all while claiming, oops, we're just accidentally killing civilians, when, yeah, they know what they're doing. There's no plausible deniability here. It's fucking obviously. Give me a fucking break. Anyone who says otherwise is just a piece of shit who is supporting the genocide, obviously. And this genocide is backed by every single major world power, including the supposedly anti-hegemonic ones like Russia and China. But it is most significantly backed by the USA, the EU, the UK, Australia, Canada, etc., these Western bloc countries. So there is an ongoing genocide right now that is backed by basically every single country with any sort of meaningful power, and the Palestinian people are standing completely alone. They're not just abandoned. You know, everyone is actively participating. Every other country is basically, like, every significant global power, every significant Western global power is actively participating in the genocide. And this is happening right now as we speak. Right now, bombs are being dropped on children in Gaza. A child died 5 minutes ago. A child probably died right now as well. Palestinians are being targeted for their ethnicity by an ethno-fascist, settler colonial genocidal state. And everyone is not just sitting back and watching it, but actively supporting it. There is basically no support for Palestine right now. The only really meaningful support is coming from Hezbollah in Lebanon. But of course, the USA deployed ships and troops to Israel in order to deter anyone from intervening to stop this genocide. They're sitting there, like, doing everything they possibly can to enable it. Joe Biden sent $14.3 billion to Israel immediately. He was like, oh, you guys are killing kids? Well, here's a lot of money so you can kill kids better. Western leaders flocked to Israel to sit beside Benjamin Netanyahu, the world's #1 President Hitler figure, and be like, hey, what do you need from us? How can we help you kill these kids better? It is absolutely incredibly, honestly, almost hilariously ridiculous. It would be hilarious if it wasn't real. It seems like something out of a joke, but obviously it's true, because to the West, to those who preach about democracy and freedom, those who preach about human rights, those who tut at others constantly, the lives of an infinite amount of Palestinian children is worth less to them than the military utility that Israel offers them by being an antagonistic state in the middle of the Middle East. That's what it's all about for them. For them, Israel can kill as many children as it wants, as long as it keeps doing the role it needs to play, which is to be an antagonistic dividing force in the Middle East on their behalf. Now, this is a genocide in every way, shape, or form. We can go over specifically how it's a genocide very, very quickly, because it's obvious. You don't even need to use any special, like, academic definition or anything. You can use the UN Genocide Convention. Okay, let's take a look at the Genocide Convention really quick. Very obvious stuff here. Shouldn't really need to go over it, but in the present convention, genocide means any of the following acts committed with intent to destroy in whole or in part a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group as such. Killing members of the group. Check. 7,000 and counting so far, including a monstrously disproportionate number of children, which indicates intentional targeting of children. Causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group. Well, I mean, that goes without saying. You can't kill members of the group without also causing serious bodily or mental harm to them. Deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in parts. It's another one that's very easily met. Israel, in addition to bombing Gaza's infrastructure, destroying the places where people live, destroying basically everything they need to sustain their everyday life, even basic shit like food. It has also cut off water and electricity to Gaza to the extent that hospitals can't run anymore. And a talking point that genocide supporters have been using, Zionist genocide supporters have been using, is that, oh, why is Israel obliged to give Palestinians water and electricity anyway? Well, the reason why they're in fucking Gaza in the first place is because Israel stole their land and expelled them there. Obviously. Why is the concentration camp operator obliged to give basic services, basic human needs to the people who they have imprisoned? That's the question that you're asking there. Gaza cannot provide for its own needs because it is literally a fucking concentration camp. The people who live there have been expelled to. Cutting off power and water to a civilian population intentionally is clearly an act of genocide under Article 2, Annex C. Okay, we also meet A and B. And in terms of C, there's also many other ways that C is being met. For example, Gaza is just a ruin right now. Something that I forgot to mention up until now is that Israel did ethnic cleansing, right? They said to everyone in North Gaza, you have to leave because we're going to invade, we're going to bomb all of North Gaza, so you have to leave. That is ethnic cleansing. Israel has no authority, obviously, to give an evacuation order to a population they are antagonistic to, they claim to be at war with. So for them to say, hey, Palestinians, leave here, because if you stay, we will bomb your homes. That's ethnic cleansing. They are being threatened with being killed if they do not leave their homes. Then they went to South Gaza, and they are getting bombed still. South Gaza is under just as heavy bombardment as the North Gaza is. The infrastructure there is being destroyed. Hospitals are being bombed. Medical facilities are being bombed. Schools are being bombed. Bakeries are being bombed. Journalists' families are being bombed. Basically, everything in Gaza is destroyed. And the people in Gaza are not allowed to leave to their own homeland, which Israel is currently occupying. So they are stuck in this concentration camp, which Israel is keeping them in and actively destroying in every way, shape, and form possible. This is going to result in the spread of disease. It's going to result, obviously, in more deaths from the bombs. You know, there's not even fucking toilets for people to shit in. There's not food. There's barely even food for people to eat. Day-to-day life is completely impossible. People are living like 100 people to one dwelling, and then that dwelling is going to get bombed, and all of them will die at once. This is clearly a targeted genocide. It's targeted at all of these. A national group, Palestinian. An ethnic group, Palestinian. Racial or religious group, Arab, Palestinian, Muslim, Christian, take your pick. They are killing members of the group en masse. They are causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group, and they are deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life that they have calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part. They don't have to kill all of them. They just have to try to kill some of them in part. If Srebrenica was a genocide, a single massacre, this is a genocide a million times over, and it's going to get worse. Now, Article 3 specifically outlines that those complicit in genocide are also guilty of the crime of genocide, equal to those who are actually carrying it out. There is no distinction between the two. So, the US government, for example, which immediately pledged support to Israel, is covering Israel with its navy and its troops to make sure that Hezbollah cannot invade from Lebanon and open a second front to try and relieve Gaza, to try and relieve the Gaza genocide. $14.3 billion in military aid they sent so that Israel can bomb children in Gaza better. And then they send like a tiny little bit of humanitarian aid to try and make themselves look like they're not actively complicit in this genocide. They are. So the US, its officials, its politicians, they are also complicit in this genocide. Joe Biden is personally guilty of the crime of genocide already. If you want an idea of how fucking awful Joe Biden is, what do you guys think of George W. Bush? George W. fucking Bush called for a ceasefire when Israel was bombing Gaza. You know what Joe Biden has done? The exact opposite. Done everything possible to encourage what they're doing. He told them, go hog wild, kill them kids. Biden is somehow more of a genocidal warmonger than George W. Bush was in the same exact situation back in 2009. Absolutely unbelievable. So the USA, its government, its politicians, its president, all unambiguously guilty of the crime of genocide. Same with all the leaders of the EU nations, of the UK, Australia, Canada, etc. All unambiguously guilty of being complicit in an ongoing genocide. The world is absolutely fucking mad. Absolutely fucking mad right now. If you are an even remotely sentient person, And you thought for even a second that the West valued democracy and human rights or any of that instead of just blatant naked self-interest. Like, this should be the end for you, the end of any sort of notion of that. Or you're just a straight up fucking ghoul. Just to drive home what Israel's plan is here, what Israel is doing is using the attack by Hamas as an excuse to take over Gaza. Their plan is to ethnically cleanse Gaza, force its population into Egypt. This is a plan that was outlined both by an Israeli think tank and that is currently being planned by the Israeli Intelligence Ministry, meaning the actual government. The Israeli outlet Calculus reported on a separate plan for the ethnic cleansing of Gaza that is being circulated by the Israeli Intelligence Ministry, headed by Gila Gamliel. The leaked document was reportedly created for an organization called the Unit for Settlement, Gaza Strip, and was not meant for the public. They opened up a fucking settlement agency in preparation of the ethnic cleansing of Gaza. They're trying to kill people there. They're trying to destroy it completely, kill people, and they want to force the remaining survivors into Egypt so they can take it over with their settlers. Just as they've always done. Israel has never let anyone return to their homes after they've ethnically cleansed, and you're fucking stupid if you think this time they'll do it. In the plan being proposed by the intelligence ministry, Palestinians in Gaza would be displaced from Gaza to the northern Egyptian Sinai Peninsula. In the report, the minister described different options for what comes after an invasion of Gaza, and the option deemed as liable to provide positive and long-lasting strategic results was the transfer of Gaza residents to Sinai. The move entails 3 steps: the creation of 10 cities southwest of the Gaza Strip, the construction of a humanitarian corridor to assist the residents, and finally the building of cities in northern Sinai. In parallel, a sterile zone several kilometers wide will be established within Egypt south of the Israeli border, so that the evacuated residents would never be able to return. Now, ethnic cleansing is already practically genocide, but in this case, even if we definitionally separate them, the ethnic cleansing is going hand in hand with the genocide. The point of this is that Israel wants to get rid of all Palestinians from Gaza, either through killing or forcing them to leave, which is definitionally genocide. Obviously, the whole point of genocide is to destroy a nation of people, get them out of your land, so you can take it over. And it's going to get worse and worse and worse. It is genocide, ethnic cleansing as well, but ethnic cleansing is basically just a precursor to genocide anyway. And at this point, it's not a precursor anymore because they're going on at the same time. And this is supported by most of the people watching this. This is supported by your countries. Full-throatedly supported by your countries. The same people who claim, for example, that the US intervened in Yugoslavia to stop genocide are now backing Israel's genocide in Gaza. It is absolutely ghoulish, insane. And you have people denying this, like, at the fucking wazoo right now. Like, come on, guys, don't use the word genocide. This is unambiguously genocide. Like, it's so genocide that it even fits the convention definition of genocide, which is incredibly narrow and basically was specifically narrowed down in order to prevent exactly this from occurring, in order to prevent people from being able to charge the West and its allies with genocide. It's absolutely fucking insane that people are talking right now about anything but this. Somehow they're like talking about how both sides can be, a lot of them are talking about like how both sides can be bad, but Hamas, do you condemn Hamas? You know, you have YouTubers like Vorsh and Lonerbox giving any sort of fucking lip service to that sort of thing, while Israel is literally fucking mass murdering people, like talking about fucking hypotheticals, like debating like fucking the most insane hypotheticals you could ever imagine, while Israel is fucking massacring Palestinian children. Israel has destroyed 40% of the residential buildings in Gaza. They are targeting civilian infrastructure as much as they possibly fucking can. They're trying to make life there for people unlivable. They're directly killing people, and they're trying to make it so that the survivors will die off of disease, starvation. That's what they're trying to do here. The only thing to do right now, if you're in one of the countries supporting this, is to take action. I would tell you how to take action, but some of the ways that I would tell you how to take action would get me banned off this platform. But Israel is, if you are in the Imperial West, Israel is your colony. You're in the metropole, and Israel is your Algeria. You're in France, and Israel is your Algeria. You can do things that make the cost-benefit analysis that leads the West to unequivocally support not worth it for them anymore. You can make it costly for them through forms of political pressure. That's why they stopped backing apartheid South Africa, and it can lead them to stop backing Israel, because the only reason why the Israeli settler state can even exist in the antagonistic form that it is because it is essentially a colony of these Western imperial powers, and it does their bidding in exchange for being allowed to do basically whatever it wants to the Palestinians and to its neighbors. The least you could do is go into the streets. The least you could do is fucking yell and scream at these ghoulish Western politicians when they pass you by. The least you could do is something. If you have any sort of voice, you should shout down these Zionist fucking pieces of shit. Don't cave to them. Don't cave to them. They call you anti-Semitic, anything. Laugh in their fucking face. Treat this. The time for us to treat this as if it's just like a part of our professional lives or something is over. You're dealing with straight up evil, and the way that you combat evil is not by issuing a statement dialing back your support for Palestine or your denouncement of Israel or whatever when the pushback gets too hard. It's not hesitating. It's not regulating your rhetoric. It's full-throatedly just saying what needs to be said, doing what needs to be done. Those who support Israel are enemies. They are enemies of everything good, of anything moral. They already were, but now it's even more so than ever before. And for the first time in the history of Palestine, that this has happened. We live in a world where the media cannot control the narrative as much as they used to be able to, because of social media. Anything that happens, videos of it are uploaded. They bomb kids, there are videos of it. They bomb a hospital, there are videos of it. They destroy entire neighborhoods, photos, videos get uploaded immediately. This didn't happen. This wasn't possible in Israel's previous wars on the Palestinian people. It is possible now. That's why the tide is finally turning. That's why you're even here. If this was 20 years ago, maybe some of you would be fucking Zionists because that's what the media will be feeding you. You know, times have changed. We can see the genocide happening now. They can't hide it. So now that you have the actual information that you need to know what's going on, and it's so blatantly fucking obvious, obviously opinion is turning against Israel, but people need to do stuff about this. Whatever I'm doing right now is stuff, I guess, sort of. It's the least that I could do. It's time to stop beating around the bush. It's time to stop acting like there is not a deep compromise between the average Israeli and the genocidal settler state. Israelis are very conscious of the fact that the oppression of the Palestinians benefits them. That's why they back it in overwhelming numbers. It's why something like 85% of them support the IDF in general. If you ask them about their opinion about the IDF, 85% of them fucking love it. The genocide of Palestinians benefits them. Through the genocide of Palestinians, they get land, they get homes, they get cheap labor, they get resources. A lot of them get a sense of satisfaction and a sense of racial superiority. The idea that they are not complicit, that they don't know what they're doing, that they're just victims, basically, who are being misled is fucking laughable. As laughable as it would be to say that someone who joined the Nazi party didn't know what they were doing. You can't be an active participant and active supporter of genocidal settler colonialism and somehow be innocent of personal responsibility. Israel is not a fucking disembodied god. It's not like an entity that forces its will upon the people of Israel. Israel is a settler colonial state set up by Israelis for the benefit of Israelis at the expense of Palestinians. That's its purpose. If you're Israeli, you either oppose it and you actively take measures against it, or you are a complicit. It's like being a fucking German in the middle of World War II and just sitting on your ass doing whatever they tell you. Another thing is that the narrative about Israel's casualty figures from the Hamas attack is completely bullshit, by the way. Thus far, of the names that Israel has released of the victims, 80% of them were soldiers. Whereas on the side of the Palestinians, while someone like Joe Biden does genocide denial by saying that you can't trust the figures being put out by the Gazan Health Ministry, which, by the way, is not run by Hamas. It's run by medical professionals with a network of hospitals that have gotten very good at counting deaths, especially deaths of children, because you massacre their children. Every single death in Palestine has a name and ID card number. You can't say the same for the Israelis. It's been weeks now. It's been weeks since October 7th. And of the names they've released, almost all of them have been soldiers. 80% soldiers. That doesn't even come close to the 1,400 figure they made up. The Gaza Health Ministry has a Telegram channel, by the way, where they periodically upload the list of names and ID card numbers of the people who have been murdered by Israel. Let me show you. It's obviously in Arabic, so I cannot read it. But we're supposed to believe... Look, ID card number, name. We're supposed to believe that this is not reliable. While Israel just making shit up gets reported if it's fact immediately. Clearly, one side is reliable, and it is the Gaza Health Ministry. It is the Palestinians, as fucking usual. names, ID card numbers, every fucking death here is logged. Turns out that when you spend decades upon decades upon decades massacring people's children, they get pretty good at keeping account of the children that you've massacred. They have lots of experience with this. This is just from today. It goes up to 6,747. I was going to get a Palestinian friend to come on to talk with me about this today, but he's a Palestinian citizen of Israel, and his family have been imprisoned for being Palestinians in Israel. So he's terrified that they would recognize his voice and he would get in trouble, or his family would get in trouble because of that. In Israel, anyone who speaks out right now against what's going on, Israeli or Palestinian, is going straight to jail for support for terrorism. If you oppose the massacre of children in Israel, you are a terrorism supporter automatically, according to them. It is obvious what's happening here. This is a clear and obvious genocide, unambiguous, in line with the Genocide Convention, with the stated intent, according to Israel's own intelligence ministry, to expel the Palestinians from Gaza, to kill them and make it unlivable for the rest, to get them out of there so that its own settlers can move in. The exact same thing that Israel has done everywhere else in Palestine since before it was even founded. This disgusting, sick, settler colonial genocidal state, which gets the backing from the West, because to the West, having a state that is antagonistic to everyone around it in the middle of the Middle East is militarily useful. It's useful for their own imperial interests, for the interests of their corporations, and that to them is worth more than the blood of millions of Palestinian children. Doesn't matter how many of them die. To them, the utility of a dead Palestinian child is zero. The utility of the Israeli state that kills them is very high, so they're going to keep killing them. That's what it's all about for them. If you're naive enough to believe otherwise, well, this should be a fucking wake-up call for you. Anyway, this is basically like the least that I could do. There is too much stuff going on. I'm making a video right now, and it's like on another topic about exactly what's going on right now, and it's like every single day the death numbers go up. The things that I'm talking about become outdated. And there's so much to talk about. There's so much abhorrent shit going on. There's so much obfuscation of what's going on by Israel's disgusting allies. Like, Joe Biden randomly goes on TV and he says, we can't trust the fucking Palestinians, they're all terrorists. There's no proof that these people are dying. As like you see pictures of leveled buildings, of dead children everywhere, uploaded for all to see. And he has the audacity to say that we can't trust the Palestinians to count their own dead, something that they have a lot of experience doing because he has been backing it for his entire fucking political career. Joe Biden is pretty much at the head of this genocide. I know there's people who say that he's not, but Israel can only do this because of the US. If by some fucking miracle there was a US president who said no to Israel, they'd have to stop immediately. So yeah, he bears huge responsibility for this. Out of all of Israel's allies, out of any individual, Joe Biden is by far the one who is the most complicit in this genocide. So anyway, I just had to go live and talk about this stuff because there's no way that I could get actual videos about talking about all of this stuff with all the other stuff that I have to do right now. I'm working on another video on the current situation that I'm hoping to get out this weekend, and then I have another video that I have a commitment to finish within like the next 2 weeks, which is an actual video essay, and there's no fucking way that I could do this. I could get all the stuff out that needs to be said in this time. So I just wanted to go live and make a stream thing that I could then upload on its own, disjointed as it is, because, well, anyone with a platform right now needs to speak openly and plainly without self-censorship and without hesitation. You should not let the disgusting Zionist genocide supporters shout you down. If there's ever a time to take a stand, if there's ever a time not to be a fucking coward like Lonerbox, there's ever a time not to be a wishy-washy both sides liberal like Lonerbox, this is it. The least that you can do for the Palestinian people in this moment, the completely abandoned Palestinian people who have the entire free world of morally superior Western nations against them, backing their elimination from this fucking planet, is to speak with your heart and not let the disgusting Zionists shout you down. If they call you an anti-Semite, you fucking laugh at them. That's what they deserve. Don't treat them like people, because they sure as hell do not treat the fucking Palestinians like people. Regardless of how much they like to pretend to be like liberals, like humanist liberals who care about the Palestinians, but Israel has a right to defend itself or whatever the fuck. The time to draw the lines is here. It's been here forever, but if there's ever a time to draw your lines, it's now. They're the enemy. Treat them like it. There's no discussion with the enemy. You defeat the enemy. And for all of you living in the West, most of you watching this are living in the West. The enemy is in your parliaments, it's in your congresses, in your senates, it's in your executive branches. The least you can do is protest, yell and scream at them, tell them what they are, because 7,000 Palestinians have been killed. Hundreds of thousands of residential dwellings have been destroyed. All of Gaza's civilian infrastructure practically has been destroyed. People are dying of thirst, of hunger, of disease, of bombs. And every second that these fucking Western ghouls allow it to happen, more and more will die. Every Western government is proving itself to be just a baby killer government right now, along with Israel itself, obviously, who are the ones doing the baby killing with the full-throated support of the West. Anyone who's talking about this needs to emphasize the importance of the West enabling this, the West supporting this, the complicity of not just the complicity, if anything, they don't just let it happen, they're just indifferent to it, they enable it, they actively support it. Without them, it couldn't be. Emphasize that, because you emphasize that, and it drives home to people that they can do something about this. Because if you're in the belly of the beast, you can hit the belly. Israelis sure aren't going to do it. They love what their country does. They support it wholeheartedly. They understand, they benefit from it. So those of you in the imperial core who perhaps don't benefit from your government spending your tax dollars on propping up a genocidal Nazi state in the Middle East that is currently doing genocide, it's on you to do something about it. Because that this list is actually organized by family name. So on the list of people who have been killed, it is a list of people by family names. You can see people from the same family, just like 20 people from the same family in blobs have all been killed together. Same family name, same family name, same family name, same family name, same. Let's count this family here, starting from 4, 6, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. And this is a pattern that repeats throughout this list. Entire families, entire lineages wiped off the face of the earth in one bomb. This is Israel. This is the West. I have no illusions to it anymore. Anyone who's ever like, oh, we have to support the West when it does good, but criticize it when it does bad, that sort of mentality leads to this. You give the West the leeway to do things like this, it's going to do them. You don't oppose it unequivocally. You don't unoppose it even having the power to influence things in this way. Then this is what's going to happen. You end up supporting a fucking genocide with your logic. Anyway, do something. Do whatever you can. Because the longer that we don't do something, the longer that all of us don't use whatever little power that we have combined to do something about this, the more and more Palestinians are going to be massacred, the more the genocidal state of Israel is going to be consolidated.